Hello and welcome everybody back to the Red Bra Project. I am your host. I always say co-host, but I don't have my other brave co-host here with me. So I'm your host today, Renee, and I'm the founder and producer of the Red Bra Project. And if you're coming to us live on our YouTube channel, welcome. You're watching all of the fun happen. And if you're listening on our podcast, we're so excited that you found us. We cannot be more excited. I can feel the energy bouncing off already to introduce you to episode number 84's guest. Her name is Kate Eckman. Many of you may have already have heard of her. She has an incredible new book out that we're going to talk about. She's the author of The Full Spirit Workout, Columbia Certified Executive Leadership Coach, and entrepreneur, former elite athlete, meditation teacher, just so much to get into. And Kate, I love your red. Welcome to the Red Bra Project. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation. And yes, had to wear some red for you.
I love it. On point with the brand. I love it. It's so good. Well, gosh, Kate, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about where you're coming from today and a little bit about your background?
Sure. So when I think of my background, I think of swimming, and sports was my life literally for 17 years as a competitive swimmer. And that discipline and dedication, that work ethic, that desire and ability to be a really great teammate and show up for others has really carried with me through everything that I do. It was the reason I think I was able to write this book in a couple of months during a pandemic and just really focus in on the bigger why. And I think that's what I stand behind, and who I am as someone who is coming with a purpose greater than myself, which I highly recommend for everybody who wants to take on their dream project or I call it a life assignment. For me, this book has been a life assignment, but with someone with so heavily an athletic background, I knew how hard I had to train my physical muscles to compete at a high level. And as I went about my life, I had a forward-facing career as a on-camera presenter on TV internationally. I fell into a modeling career for 10 years that I never intended on having, but there it was.
Yeah.
And I was in New York City, and just that rat race culture, which is the whole American culture, quite frankly, but especially in New York. And I was struggling like most people. And I'm comfortable kind of blowing the lid off of that and calling that out, because I think there's this misconception that if you look a certain way or reach a certain level of success, you've got it all together and it's all figured out. And if you can present a pretty package to the world, you don't struggle. But we're all struggling now more than ever. I'd like to normalize that and out that, and the work that I'm doing and what I'm passionate about are giving people the tools and the strategies and the exercises to combat all of the emotional gravity like stress, fear, anxiety, COVID-19, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, and really start to come up with a better way of living. And these are the tools and the keys that have helped me that I know can help all of you.
Oh my gosh, Kate, there's so much there. I love it. First of all, yes, talking about what's born out of COVID, we absolutely love that a lot of our most recent guests are sharing with us their struggles through COVID, of course, because this past year, 15, 16 months has been so intense for many. And, you know, tons of growth, sure, but there's been a ton of challenges. And I think that you're so right on when you say, stop pretending. Like there is a struggle. And how I think that one of the coolest things is how we can share how we got through the struggle, because how you may have gotten through the struggle, or me or some of our listeners, it may not be the perfect match for the person listening, but for one of their friends or their people that they share the story with, they're like, oh yes, I get that, that's going to help me through my struggle. I haven't tried that yet. And you're right. I mean, everything can look so put together in your highlight reel on the outside, and you don't think anybody's struggling, but we all are in essence.
Yeah, and everyone has their challenges in different ways, but I think what I'm hearing from people who have already read the book is, my story is everybody's story. There's a different cast of characters and there's different circumstances, but it is just that human condition. And you can be positive and be struggling. You can be grateful and be irritable because of I think just really being honest about our feelings and start getting more comfortable presenting our whole self to the world. That's what I loved about my training at Columbia. We learned whole person coaching techniques. We're coaching the whole person, not just the business person, not just the who you are at home, who you are with your family. I think it's important that we really start to embrace all aspects of ourselves. So even the things that we may perceive as flaws or imperfections, things we may not love about ourselves, and really getting curious about some of those things, and having those uncomfortable conversations, not just with others, but with ourselves, and spending that time. I call it my sit and stare time. It's something that I've come up with during the pandemic. It's a minimum 5 minutes a day. I usually do at least an hour, even if I break it up, but you do exactly what it says. You sit and stare out the window in front of you and allow yourself to process and to reflect. This is distraction free. So, no devices, no TV, no music, no nothing. And giving yourself that space and freedom to really get clear about what's going on with you at your core, who you really are underneath all those titles and labels, and what you really want. Not what you want, because what we want is often dictated by society, what everyone else is doing, our family, what we should be doing. This is what you really, I put really in italics as a writer, what you really want. And oftentimes that's the complete opposite of what you say you want or what you are actually striving for.
You are so right. You know what? Sometimes when you say I want this most, I feel like the next follow-up question should be, but what would you want most opposite of that? And then see which one you kind of feel or strikes you most. Just because you're right, we can tell ourselves what we think we want, but our inner self knows. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. And I think with your book, so I love, so with your competitive swimming career and your evolution and everything that you have done, and you talk about titles and kind of getting underneath that and at the core of yourself. One of the things that I can definitely relate to, and I think many of our listeners will too, is that mental fitness is just as important as physical fitness. And here's the thing, it's like it's a muscle. You can't just work it one day and think, okay, I'm set. I know how to meditate. It's great. I love it. I mean, it's often messy and it doesn't feel good. And you get done and you're like, what the hell was that? Nothing changed. So talk to us about that correlation and how that really resonates with you.
Yeah, just like our physical fitness helps us navigate in the external world, our spiritual, mental, emotional fitness helps us navigate our inner and outer world. So then you're navigating from the inside out and then also the inside in. But an example of that is, I call it performance confidence. So in the physical term, I had performance confidence down in spades. As a TV presenter, no matter what was going on, that was my skill and talent and job and responsibility to show up and knock it out of the park, regardless of what was going on in my life, and how I was feeling on the inside. And that is unsustainable, as I'm sure many people have experienced. So I knew I had to go within and develop that unshakable, unbreakable, full bodied inner confidence. That the good news is it can be developed, it can be built upon, but you have to do these inner exercises. But that's how then, regardless of what's going on around you, you can feel calm and at peace and confident from within, because it's dictated on inner success rather than all the externals. And that was my experience. I was a product of someone who had it all together on the outside. And when I really woke up to that and how that was not working or sustainable, is losing two loved ones to suicide in a year, two people, two men who were cream of the crop, had everything, were so beloved, never said a bad thing about anybody, the purest, most beautiful souls in every way. And the fact that they chose to leave us really opened my eyes, and it kind of shook me to my core and made me look at the way I was choosing to live my life, who, like everybody, I'm just going to say it, was placing all of my worth in the externals, what we look like, how much money we make, how many likes and followers, our house, our car, our shiny objects. And what my research indicated, which I didn't need research to tell me, I already knew, but I'm glad that I had the data for it, is that all of those shiny objects and things that society says will make us happy, they actually don't move the needle on our well-being. What moves the needle are things like sleep, exercise, time affluence, meaning you have time to actually do the things you want to do. Social connection, this right here, nothing lights me up. We're not even in person, but nothing lights me up more than this. I can feel my happiness meter has increased dramatically since I've logged on with you. So it's acts of service and kindness. So I encourage and invite people to make those things a bigger priority and tap into those things. And then we won't be so obsessed with and focused on where we're not adding up, so to speak, where we're getting it wrong. They have more than us. Whatever it is, you're going to feel more content from within. And no one can ever take that from you.
Yeah. Kate, I love that. There's so many awesome points that you made. One, I'm so sorry about your loss, and I can't even imagine how that's been for you to navigate through those feelings and challenges. But it sounds like it has impacted your world in a way that in turn really made you think about yourself, but how you can also help others. And I appreciate your vulnerability and your authenticity so much. The thing about the Red Bra Project is, we don't pretend, we say it's not our job to show up and show this awesome highlight reel and everything's perfect. Like, it's about showing up in life in real messy ways. And a lot of the times, like if you go through and watch some of our episodes, we may have some tech problems. We may have a child pop in to say hi to their mom. We may have a barking dog. Like, that stuff is real. And, that's just the surface stuff. But down deep, we've had tears, we've had laughs. And like, for you to take somebody who on the outside, everybody's looking in, you were a model, you were a former athlete, you are out in the public facing in all that you do, TV host, and to say, I struggle too. I think that that is just giving so much, not that people need it, but permission to be like, I struggle too. And I don't have to air all my dirty laundry, but I can admit it. And that's okay, because I can struggle in the same day as I can excel.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about admitting that we don't have it all together at all times, because we're human, that's part of the gig. Let's just own and embrace that. And as soon as you just admit it, whether it's to yourself or a friend, a coach, a therapist, it loses its power over you. Because then it's like, I'm struggling. So what? It's just like the sky is blue.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's like, who do I want to be? And I think there's so much power and freedom in choosing who we want to be, especially in that moment. And I talk about some very dark moments in the book. And those were moments where it was, who do you want to be? And in some cases, for some of us, it is a life or death thing. Like, do you want to choose this really dangerous road, or do you want to reach out for help and get support and let that fuel you and energize you into a bigger purpose? And that's why, even with a book, or I'm sure, you have a show, so I'm sure you have people say, oh, I want to do that. And I think to people, well, why do you want to do that? Because writing a book or doing a show, for example, being a parent, full-time commitment, and you've got to have a really strong why. And for me, it was these two men, and it was being able to help erase the stigma around suicide and mental health struggles and have open conversations about it. Is that easy? No, I'm triggered all the time. Promoting this book has been phenomenal in that I'm meeting people like you and reaching people who really could use this book. But it's been a lot of tears, and I don't want to diminish that either. And if you are going to do something like a show or a book and really put yourself out there, it's going to be challenging. And I think it's important to embrace that, but that makes it even juicier. That's when life gets really interesting and really exciting, not because you're in the lights, camera, action, flash, but because you're in that mix of all of the rawness and the realness. And again, that's something no one can take away from you. That's why I love going back to school, because in this day and age, there's few things left that people can't take from us. And education, knowledge, educating yourself, developing these tools and this skill set that I outline in the book. This is a life resource. You have it forever. You build on it, and then you're so fit. And as I like to say, you get that six-pack spirit. I've never had a six-pack abs. It's not my body type. I don't care to have six. Good for anyone who does, but for me, I'm interested in that six-pack spirit, because that's sexiness to me. That's that drop dead girl next door beautiful is the beautiful spirit.
Yes, yes. And I think that you said this a little bit ago, but it's developing those inner tools and things that you need to deal with your own peace, because that's the only thing you can control. We can't control all of this other stuff happening outside of us in our environment. We have no control over it, which is crazy, because that's all of the things we naturally want to try to control. So doing the inner work is a lot of work. But so talk about that a little bit. I mean, obviously you have an amazing drive and willpower and just the commit, and what that's like. I mean, you were born with that. You have, you've exercised that through all of your career choices. Incredible. How does that connect to working the mental area of yourself? And like, for somebody who's new to it, what would you suggest? How do they start?
Yeah, I think that 5 minutes of sit and stare is a great place to start, and scheduling it into your calendar, and along with all the Zoom meetings you don't really want to be in, and all the things that you feel obligated to do, or that are real life responsibilities. We're all grown adults here, so we do have things we have to do. I get it. But scheduling in that time, even, from 5 to 5:15, I'm going to do sit and stare. From 6 to 6:30, I'm going on a walk in nature. From 4 to 4:22, I'm going to call Renee and ask her how her day is and see how I can connect with her in a meaningful way, and scheduling those things in. And so for spiritual fitness, it's not the grind and making it happen and the force and control. It's actually releasing your grip so tightly from the steering wheel, because when we grip so tightly to our goals, we actually repel them. So of course we're going to take the action
Ooh.
steps that we're it really, it does. And I've experienced that. And I catch myself, there's been some moments lately where I catch myself doing that. And that's when I'm conscious of it. And I'm like, you need to loosen your grip and go and have some sit and stare time, but also just really release and surrender. And as I like to say in a quote that went viral on Instagram, that it was a divine download, but being okay if it happens and okay if it doesn't is a very powerful place to be,
Mm.
knowing you're going to be okay either way. And when the key here is to move the knowledge from your brain, your head, down into your heart. And so let the knowledge become wisdom. It's only wisdom when your default setting, when it lives in your body. And then from there, you can move it down to your hands and implement it. I mean, application is everything, because I see plenty of people, they've got 5,000 degrees, they're doing this and that. You have to actually put it into practice. As I like to say, Tom Brady trains harder than anyone, not because he's the worst, but because he's the best. So you have to put in the work. But I think this is about stillness. And for me, a practice that this is challenging, right? Because I am a recovering people pleaser. I want to be available for everyone. And I think, especially as women, I'm curious if you've experienced, or anyone watching or listening to this, if you've experienced setting a boundary with someone, saying no, having to reschedule because your mental health you need to take a break. You need a timeout. You are not doing well. And then the pushback we can receive from people, where you can feel it, like, how dare you cancel on me? Or, oh, it's like, but that's their stuff. If someone is that upset that you're rescheduling, if someone is that upset that you're making a kind boundary, setting a kind, loving boundary, then maybe that person needs to fall away, or maybe they need to take a time out from your life. And I've been experiencing that a lot lately, where I'm not willing to like always speak your truth kindly, but if you speak your truth and someone is like not accepting of it, maybe that person is no longer a match to be in your life, and being okay with that, even if it is painful, because we can't mess around anymore. We're not quite at midnight, but it's like 11:58. Like, we're in crisis mode. We need to steer the ship back to center and really start taking care of our well-being and making it a priority.
I 100% agree. And I mean, now more than anything, as we're starting to come out of COVID and things are coming back into our schedule and the ability to do things and reconnect with people in person, I think there's been a lot of people, I think we're all going to kind of learn that maybe we did discover a lot. Maybe we did work on a lot, even though it may have felt like we weren't doing much in COVID, given our personal situation and the growth that we have done. But sending those boundaries are so important. And like you said, if somebody reacts in a certain way that it's not okay to set those boundaries, then I'm a firm believer that friends and people come into your life sometimes in seasons or in waves. That could be a season where they were amazing while they were there, and now it's time to move forward and make room for new connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm not saying this is easy or comfortable, and it can be quite painful, but then again, you're learning about yourself. And when you do let some people fall away, I've experienced this firsthand. You attract people who see you and hear you and acknowledge you, and are those mighty companions to join you on your journey. And so being excited about that, or open to that, or even if you have that little space where you have more time for yourself, great. That's the goal here, and to really get clear and decide who you want to be in all of your relationships, business, family, friends,
Mhm.
and get really clear on that, so that you can attract those people. And again, this is a practice. I don't pretend. I think there's this notion too, oh, you wrote the book, you're good to go. I'm like, no, I do these practices every day, like eating and sleeping,
Yeah.
just like world-class athletes. They train every day. not because they're bad, but because they're good. They're quite talented at what they're doing. So this is our call to action and who we want to be. What kind of life do you want to have? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What kind of abundance do you want to see flow into your life? And so I promise you that these exercises work if you do. If you are just be willing, even if right now you feel overwhelmed or like, I don't have time for that. And I get that. And what I say to that is, because I had a moment yesterday, I'm like, you are so past exhaustion, you need to go to bed. And because I was in that place of annoyance and then even anger and resentment can come up because you aren't caring for yourself. You're burning the oil at both ends or whatever they say. And so that is when you have to take responsibility and take that time out, because I don't have time to be angry. I don't have time to be unloving to the people that I love. I don't have time to be miserable. So I think it's just getting clear on who you want to be. And when you are clear on that, when you are taking the time to sit and reflect, you'll start making better decisions. You'll start to see some things fall out of your life. And it'll seem almost like magic, like, oh, I didn't have to try. This person emailed me. This person called me. That's what's been happening to me. I get offered all these opportunities that I would have been striving so hard to make happen a few years ago. Now they're coming for me. So that's what happens.
I love it. I love it. And just, I mean, it's like, sign me up. Who doesn't want to live a life where you have a fun and fulfilling life and you learn more about how to be okay on the inner stuff, and then things start to come to you. And I mean, the perspective that you share is so awesome, because it can hurt to let go of certain relationships, any relationships, or when you lose somebody or a career or you're making a pivot, it can be super painful. But like you said, also when all those new things start to come in, you're like, wow, that's really cool. Or I really connect with this person, or this opportunity came to me out of completely nowhere.
Yeah. And I think also understanding that when you do put yourself out there in a meaningful way, that's part of the territory too. Someone's going to maybe say something, you're going to trigger them. Because they haven't done the work or whatever it is. And so look at it as you are helping them, but sometimes the feedback might not feel good or might not be nice, or you think, wow, this person loves me and they're not supporting me, or it can be unsettling. I've been working through that a lot, but then it's just, again, you have to come back to yourself and just keep putting one foot in front of the other and doing your work. And again, you'll find some people, they'll take some time to go work on their stuff. And if they are someone meant to be in your life, they'll come back and they'll suddenly be supportive and they'll suddenly see you. And it's because they've allowed themselves to see and support themselves. I think it's a reminder that all this stuff that happens to us, it's never really about us. Other people are, and I write about that in the book, like, newsflash, not everyone's going to like you. And that's okay, because it just oftentimes isn't about us at all.
Yeah. And I mean, even when it's okay to step away and then come back, if you feel like you want to be reconnected to that relationship or friendship or, person in your life, that's okay. Who said that when you walk away, you can't come back? It's like, sometimes I feel like we put these rules on ourselves. Like, there's enough rules. And then sometimes we make up our own rules and you're like, wait a minute, where did this come from? Why am I making this more hard than it needs to be?
Yeah, well, that's just a symptom of our society, which I label even sick right now. And our culture just is constantly bombarding us with messages of how we aren't good enough, we don't add up, you're not pretty enough, skinny enough, smart enough, talented enough, all of the stuff. It's gross. And I've been a victim of that, and I've subscribed to that. And it's like, whoa. So unplugging, unsubscribing from that. And like you said, establishing your own beauty standards, coming up with your own definition for success, making your own rules that work for you. Because I live in a culture where, I mean, you're here too. As a woman, you need to be married with kids. And I'm not married and I don't have kids. And so I could be on a whole other feeling unworthy, but this has been a choice of mine, and embracing that. I'm open to things, but I'm not willing to settle to subscribe to a societal standard that I don't even believe in. And I see people doing that all the time because they think that's the only way. I'm here to tell you, no, blaze your own trail. I mean, that's so hot. That's so exciting. And really have the courage to be as you authentically need to be.
Oh, Kate, I think we're going to have to do a round two just on that topic. So you'll be coming back. That's going to be the topic right there for all of our single ladies still out there who have made the choice, and maybe they're not married, they don't have kids, and you may be struggling with self-worth. That's a whole other topic. But yes, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because like, stop feeling like we have to just be conventional. If we make up our own rules, that's the way the game should go.
Yeah. And I've just noticed myself, and oh, this is hard to even admit, but how much I was judging myself. We get so upset when other people judge us or overlook us or reject us or criticize us. And I had to get really clear on how often I was doing that to myself.
Yeah.
And it was painful.
Yeah.
And that was a deep dive into a dark space for a bit. But then to be able to clear that out. And then the good news about that is you don't put up with it from other people. They want to behave that way. It's like, they can do it from the sidelines out of your way, like put them in the cheap seats. And you only, what it was, Brene Brown was saying is just, if you're not in the arena getting your butt kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. And I've reached that place too. It's like, if you're not on this journey with me and you're not showing up fully and putting yourself out there, I'm not interested in your feedback. And whatever you say about me is just your own projection and self-hatred directed outward. So it's so good to get clear on that, and to, again, decide who we want to be, and to put the blinders on like Seabiscuit, the thoroughbred racehorse,
Yeah.
because it is so tempting, especially with social media, and especially being an author. And it's like, oh, should I be posting more? Oh, do I need to do this? Oh, they're ranked higher. And it's just, it is such a way to feel like crap in an instant. It will take you out. We are all guilty of doing this. And so even doing the cleanse, which everyone's heard about that, and logging off. And when I am in that place of, oh, I should be doing more, or, oh, I turn it off and I connect with someone, or I go and volunteer my time and get involved in a project so much bigger than me. And then my petty little stuff dissolves.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the best cure. The best cure sometimes is getting out of our own heads, out of our own scroll, out of our own space. And you talk about, avoiding the addictive stuff that starts with an S. And so, part of that sugar, part of that social media too. I mean, back to that mental fitness, you have to feed it with the good stuff and eliminate the stuff that makes you question what you're doing, because it can quickly turn um, where you're just second guessing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And then these moments that are supposed to be about joy and celebration and success are just diminished by that comparison. And, even in these studies, it's that people say, well, I can't be happy until I'm making 100,000 a year. And then they do that. They make 100,000 a year, and then they're happy for 15, 20 minutes. We've all experienced that. You reach your goal and you're really happy for 20 minutes. And then it's like on to the next thing and the next thing. And I think back to 2018 when I had my best financial year by far. And it's, again, these things are embarrassing to say and admit out loud, but here we are. But I remember being in that moment, well, okay, well, now I'm at this, but I'm not going to be happy, or I should be making that. And I jumped way ahead. Like, I'm not even going to talk money, and I think, wow. And just the importance of being present in the moment and being comfortable with who you are and where you are in your journey, or geographically, or whatever. And that, we do this to ourselves where it's never enough and it's just next, next, next. But, my study showed that even making $100,000 or more a year isn't really going to increase your well-being. But what will skyrocket your well-being is limiting your time on social media, which everyone's heard, but we don't really do it because it's become at least for me, it's become an addiction. I don't even want to be on Instagram. And I'm like, here I am on Instagram. And an hour later, I'm still here. Why?
It's true. It's true. And it's like a time suck. I can't even believe how fast the time goes sometimes. I mean, yes, there are many great positive things about it, but yeah, other times we've all gone down the rabbit hole. Oh, we're like, what am I even watching this video for?
Yeah, exactly. So that's when I think the more that we can become conscious and aware and checking in with ourselves, whether we're at lunch with someone, at our job, on social media, and is this making me feel better or worse? Do I feel energized or drained? This is about, we're all so anxious. There's the curious brain and the anxious brain. I think a lot of us live in the anxious brain most of the time. So when you find yourself in that place, being willing to switch over into curious brain and, why do I feel the need to still be friends with this person who puts me down or doesn't support me? Why do I feel the need to compare myself to this woman on Instagram? Why do I feel that I am not worthy of setting a boundary with this person who does not respect my time? I think the more we can be curious, not judging, but just curious. So even a client was complaining about their job. And then I just said to them, judgment free, why do you want to work at an organization and for a CEO who does not respect you? And I get that we need to pay our bills and all of those things. But I think as soon as you can get clear on that, then you'll start making plans to remove yourself from that position, attract in an opportunity where you will feel valued, especially if that is one of your values. Like for me, my greatest value is freedom. So choosing opportunities, experiences, relationships where I can experience freedom rather than feeling held down. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, 100%, 100%. And I think that you really put, just for kind of a visual person or kind of a comparison um, status thing, to think about $100,000 and to think about lessening your time on social media and how that directly impacts your level of joy or happiness inside of you. That is just mind blowing. But your book is an awesome combination of your personal stories and research. Like these are scientific research backed tools and techniques that are proven effective. And I think that's so cool, especially if you're not super sciencey, but you're like, you know what, I just need to know that this is going to work, and if you can take what you said, just commit to it 5 minutes a day, you're going to see results.
Yeah, and then you'll start to crave it, just like physical exercise. Once you go, and maybe the first couple of days are hard. Or I had a client who's extremely successful. He says, I can't do 5 minutes of sit and stare. I can start with two. And I said, great, start with two. And again, highly successful individual. So I think it just shows how challenging it can be, because it's the opposite from the thinking of the world that says grind, 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 hustle, 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 always be doing. No, we're not doing that anymore. And we're releasing any shame associated with not achieving at all times.
Oh, good.
Or
Releasing the shame of not being
yes,
constantly go, 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 or busy. The word
yes,
busy.
the
How are
busy.
you? Oh, I'm so busy. It's like we kind of wear that as a badge of our honor, and that's part societal. It's our culture. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Or I'm like, I'm busy sleeping, or what did, like, even my friend, she's another one, always has to be doing, respect her. She's the magnificent content creator. She's got 5,000 I respect her. What has shifted for her from reading my book, she said, you helped me realize that doing nothing is achieving something. I'm achieving inner peace. Taking a day off is achieving something. Relaxation, rejuvenation, self-connection, personal growth. So I think the more we can start to look at that, because I'm just not willing to go down to that dark place anymore, or be at that place where I want to like yell at people because I'm so exhausted. We all know, we've all been at that place. And instead of like then blaming or shaming ourselves or others, it's like, listen, hon, just, if you need to go lie down, or
You
you're
need
going
to
to
take
have,
yourself a timeout.
you need an adult timeout, or it's just reschedule the meeting. I mean, I've had people recently on podcasts, they've had to reschedule and they're profusely apologizing. And I said, you're having a human moment. Thank you for taking it. Yes, we can talk another time. And they're kind of blown away by my response, but it's just, you're having a human moment. Why can't we embrace people for having a human moment? And that's even our cancel culture. I agree you should be held accountable if you're saying horrific things, but this whole notion that people aren't even allowed to have a human moment, I think we need to look at that, because you want people to be accepting of your human moment.
Yes. Yes, because perfection is not the answer. Perfection is not ideal, and we need to embrace, I saw a post the other day about mistakes, and let's normalize making mistakes, because if we can the faster we make mistakes, the faster we learn. And granted, you have to be mindful, absolutely. But, by making mistakes is the fastest way that we learn. And I love that you are such a positive advocate of this. If doing nothing is a thing, it's actually something, it's doing something for me. And if I don't want to say what I'm doing right now and just not respond and say, okay, I appreciate your time, I'm getting back to my emails now, that's okay too.
Yeah, it's so interesting. This publication that I write for, my most viewed, it's a 500,000 people read this article in a couple of weeks. And it was titled The Art of Doing Absolutely Nothing. And so that's not about likes and people viewing it, but it speaks to how popular that notion is. It's like, wait, that's even an option, to do nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah, all day. Stay in your pajamas, have some tea, read a book, turn off your phone, make it all about you. And I can hear and feel, especially mothers being like, well, it must be nice, or I can't do that. And I offer to you that you can. There are relatives who could take your child for the day. There are babysitters or something. And I get, fine, or I mean, if I were your friend and you called me and you're like, I'm reaching meltdown status. Can you watch my child for 8 hours on Saturday? I would say absolutely. So there are people, your single girlfriends, please watch my kid for 8 hours. I am not feeling well.
Yeah.
Okay, happy to. But again, what does that take? That's the courage of having to ask for help and
Which is
admitting
huge.
I'm having a hard time, which I'm not a mother, but I know mothers. No mother wants to admit that they're having a hard time. If you're not having a hard time, I actually worry about you. Like parenting is insanely hard work. So let's normalize that too, right? Moms, hello, you're my hero if you are a mother.
Yes, 100% agree with you. Oh my gosh. You've shared so many great just tips about how to kind of reset, recharge, how to know when you're getting irritable, frustrated, exhausted, kind of what you've done. Along the time that you were writing this book, and it was, of course, you were going through a lot, sharing your stories and your emotional heartache and grief and things like that in parts. How did you recharge? Like, who was your kind of mentor, or how did you just recharge?
Great question. The walks in nature literally saved my life this past year, especially. And that was my kind of non negotiable. And even I had moments, sometimes I do speak to myself like I'm a child. I'm like, you are grumpy. You're going to walk until you're not grumpy. For me, it's not about looking hot in a bikini or burning X amount of calories or whatever. I'm like, you're going to walk until your mind is right. And I would. And it would get right faster when I was, in nature or along water, something like that. And there were the friends who I could reach out to. And if you have those friends who will hold the space and for a non-judgmental, they will see and hear and acknowledge you. I mean, consider yourself so fortunate if you even have one person that will do that for you. But, and I have a coach and I have a therapist. I have people I can reach out to, and that I do. That's part of my arsenal. But there were also days that I felt stuck or that were hard. And I'm like, I'm not going to accomplish anything today. I'm like, you need to take the day off. Or I would sit in meditation, especially near the end of my book. And I had this moment where I'm like, I feel like I've said everything I need to say. And I hate books that are just a bunch of fluff. Like every word, every sentence in my book, it's got to have meaning and value. But I would sit in meditation and I would ask spirit, my higher power, what should I write about today? And I would get it. It's like, write about this. And I would even get the soundbite or the subheader and I would text it to myself in my phone before I forgot it. And then I would just sit down and allow myself to write with that subheader. Even that day, it was about being of service and just start writing and letting it rip and letting it flow. And you can edit it later.
Yeah, that is so cool. Which is a great segue into my question. So this is your first book, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when you decided you were going to take the leap, it was time to write this book. And then there was like, wait a minute. Did you ever have to face the question, how do I write a book? What do I do? Where do I start? Google's my friend. Like, what was your process for that?
Oh, such a great question. And what I did was I rented a writing retreat in the Berkshires on this beautiful lake for 2 weeks. And I booked it before COVID, before the lockdown. And I went there 2 weeks into lockdown. So it was lockdown on top of lockdown, but I knew I needed to get out of my daily responsibilities and environment and just be totally locked in. And my goal was to write, at least the first 3 chapters there. There's something about when I'm like, I'm paying all this money to be at this house on the lake. I want to make it work. So I was just like, and I'd set my ritual. I think rituals are really important. So, my morning espresso and that time by the fire, looking out at the water, and I would light the candles and I always had a candle burning on my desk while I was writing and having the journal. And if I got tired or stuck with writing, I was getting credentialed in a few classes. And so I would do some research and the research would inspire me. It would, ignite something in my brain like, ooh, I can relate to that and just start writing on that. But I think just sitting down and committing to that. But look, I wasn't writing 12 hours a day. I would work super hard for 3 or 4 hours and then go for my walk and then maybe do some research and then just get in bed and relax. So I think too, I didn't have a lot of that because this was a divine assignment for Sam and Rolf, my friends that I lost. So there wasn't that who am I or imposter syndrome. This was a dedication to them and to anyone who's ever felt like them. And I was one of those people. I talk about being in a pharmacy and wanting to take a bottle of pills, not to hurt myself, but I was just in so much pain after losing them. So that's what kept me going. And I think when you do have a noble reason to do something, that keeps you going even when it's hard. But I think it is just, I had a tight deadline. So it really was like, okay, here we go. And it's just a testament. I don't think I'm so special or whatever. It's simply a testament to you can do whatever you decide is important enough.
Mm, I love it. And it's just as simple as that. And I mean, I was going to ask, I mean, I know that you have worked through all different types of fear and pain and things like that. Just hearing about your story and your past and your careers and everything you've chosen to do, is there something that you can always kind of come home to when you're working through fear?
Wow, what a beautiful question. I think I come back to my breath and yeah, candidly, I've even the past couple of days have been just working through some stuff where I'm like, I just want a hug, or I just want someone to hug me. Or I'm like, I just want to be on vacation, drinking Prosecco and having good food and look at something beautiful and not have to think and feel and perform and produce. And I am at that point. And then I come back to I go back to my intention. And even right now in this moment, I intend to show up and be fully present and trust that whatever is supposed to come out to add value to whoever is meant to hear this, it will happen. So I guess to answer your question, I'm just processing out loud. Trust. My trust muscle has been my anchor. And the word confidence stems from the words to trust, to do something with trust. Everyone's always asking, how can I be more confident? You can trust. It's not about having cuter hair. I mean, certainly if you feel more put together, you can feel more confident, but I've disproved that theory as well. For me, it is that inner, the trusting and being open to miracles or being open to I do. I pray for a miracle, so to speak. And that works too, which it's like, how does that happen? Or I'll be like, wow, I could really use some support from a friend. A friend will call, I'll get an email for something. So it really does work when you go back to that grounded space. And no one can ever, again, no one can ever take your trust muscle from you. You've earned it. You've built that up. So keep nurturing that. And then your default setting becomes, I'm just the person who attracts all of these things rather than I have to strive and get and compare and compete. Ugh,
Mm,
right?
yes, just the way you say that initially, like instantly those feelings of ugh, what you
Yeah.
just said comes over when you hear those words, and it's like I'd rather take the other ones where you attract, you come to it, you're at peace. It's just just a more pleasant space.
Yeah.
Um, that's such good shares. So you are the content creator. You on Insight Timer, which is the world's number one like free meditation app. This is so cool. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. So I like that just because you're able to connect with people from all over the world. And I was meditating on that space. If you're not familiar with Insight Timer, check it out because it is free. There's so many different options there, but just wanted to create content for people to enjoy on a global scale. And it's a place that I've checked into when I was, spinning out or needed a place to ground and calm. And that's why I love meditations too. And even there are 12 meditations in the Full Spirit Workout, my book, and I've recorded them and they're professionally mixed and mastered with high frequency to really take you on a journey and heal your mind and body. So they're all available for free on my website, kateeckman.tv. And I recommend going there and doing one a day or just returning to your favorite one again and again, because you're grounding the knowledge and the wisdom into your body. Like I said, the frequencies are healing frequencies. We're healing our mind and body. This is powerful stuff. So take advantage of it.
Mm. I like how you call them your daily mental vitamins. We have,
Yes.
just like you take vitamins for your body, you have to take it and do those things for your mind too. And I think it makes so much sense, even though it's kind of weird and uncomfortable at the beginning. I mean, everything is when you change something or a habit, or when you first start working out or eating different, it's all kind of weird. So,
Yeah. Or think of your first day on a job. I think of my first day, my first live shot as a TV news reporter and being nervous and like, what am I doing? And I don't want to suck. I don't want to embarrass myself. And, just if even a few years into my career, showing up at a breaking news at 5:58, being live at the top of the six with no information, it didn't even faze me. It's just you show up and deliver. And so think of anything that you've done. Think of your first day of motherhood, your first day of spin class or whatever, and then where you are now. But you're so much better because you were willing to show up. And as I say, you were willing to show up and not be good first or ever. That's me in dance class.
Yeah.
And just having fun with it. That's another thing I always say and ask myself, especially when I do live television where so many things can go wrong. But I say, did you do your best? Did you have fun? And if I can answer yes to those two questions, then it was a success, regardless of the numbers, regardless of money, regardless of what you think or that person thinks. I'm like, it was a success. So redefining success for yourself.
Yes. Oh, so good. Share with us and all of our listeners where they can find your book. You mentioned your website, but where else can they connect with you?
Yeah. So if you go to the fullspiritworkout.com, you can find all the book information, where to purchase, free gifts to get, all things like that. And then that will also link you to my website, kateeckman.tv, where you can find all of those free meditations and online courses, coaching availability, things like that. But I invite you to explore that, be part of the community, and be part of a space that's about collaboration and community rather than competition and comparison, and just a kind of a safe space on the internet to really connect with yourself and with others.
Oh my gosh, I have loved this conversation. You have shared so many wonderful gems of inspiration and wisdom and just tools that we can all take and use today. And I mean, your book is phenomenal. So thank you so much for taking the time out. And one of our kind of infamous questions we ask all of our guests is, when you look back, so the red bra, when we talk about the red bra, it is a bold supportive symbol. So it's something that when you look back on, you know that it's always there. It's kind of like the modern woman's superhero cape. It's not always on the outside. You don't have to flaunt it, but you know that it's on the inside. So for you, what is a red bra moment? It can be little or big, where you look back on and you're like, yeah, I definitely had my red bra moment on, and I am so proud of Kate.
Wow. I think just daring to write this book. And I mean, I think my red bra is definitely my faith in a higher power, a faith in myself, a faith that everything's going to work out for my highest good and the highest good of others. But I think of that moment where I had just gotten rejected from a book deal that my agent and I thought was a done deal, and being frustrated and just in that, when you've been rejected and you thought it was going to happen, and being in that place of absolute surrender and really, again, being okay whether it happened or not, because knowing in my heart of heart that it was going to happen, I just didn't know when, and I could let go of the when or how, which I recommend to everybody, to let go of the when or how. And just feeling so supported and understanding, not just intellectually, but in my bones, that truth. And then, I mean, I got a book deal 2 weeks later. I was on the phone with my now publisher. So it does happen that fast, but you have to do that practice of moving it, that wisdom down into your body and believing it. I think, this is not just posting the quote on Instagram. We have to actually believe the things that we're saying and writing. You have to believe it, and not just intellectually. It's easy to understand things intellectually. We're all smart. You have to believe it in your bones. So I guess my red bra too, besides my faith, is believing the truth in my bones.
I love it. And that comes back to how you work through fear, your home place, that trust and your confidence. And so it's all connected. And thank you so much for sharing so many amazing points of your life that has brought you to today, and how you've learned from it and you've learned to gain trust. And I don't know, you've just really, it's a reminder that we all struggle, and perfect is not the goal. So,
well, it's no such thing. It's like, the goal is to convince everyone that the sky is orange. I'm like, well, it's just not. So let's have a goal based on the truth.
right. I love it. Like, let's bring it back down to reality.
Yes, exactly. And like, so yeah, trust and truth. I think too, if everyone can be like trust and truth, and being in the space of trust and the truth, things are going to start moving for you in all the right ways and in all the right directions. So trust and truth, trust in the truth.
Yes, there we go. I like it. I love it. Well, Kate, we have a quote for all of our guests after you share your story with us. And for you today, patience is a form of wisdom. It demonstrates that we understand the fact that sometimes things must unfold in their own time. John Kabat-Zinn. And I think that everything you've talked about is finding the trust and the truth and being okay with it, knowing that it's going to work out in its time.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just thank you for all the work that you're doing. I love the Red Bra movement. I think it is a movement. And plus I even love the act of movement. Yeah, and it's good to be in motion and movement and growth. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's been here with us. I honor everyone for showing up in this way because it means that you're ready to transform your life in a meaningful way. And I honor you for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you to everybody who's watched or is listening. Please share it with a friend who needs Kate's story in their life. Go and check out her book. You do not want to miss out on that. Connect with her over on Instagram. But what goes deeper to that? I mean, Kate said it earlier. Make sure to unplug because there's only so much of certain things that we all need mentally. So that's such an important point. But get Kate's book. And follow us at the Red Bra Project because that's where all of our updates about stories happen. So you may find a story that really resonates with you and you need in your life at that time. We appreciate you guys so, so much. And thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.